this is called the smuggler's box, and inside there, I shall just close it just to show you why it's called the smuggler's box. So that closes, and apparently you can hide stuff in there like illicit substances or whatnot. Anyway, that is the steering column, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and detach that and pull it upwards and see if that will somehow free up the steering column. No idea what I'm doing with this, but trial and error is my friend. So I'll have a go now. Here's my steering rack, which was under the car, and it was under there, and the way to get it undone was I went in the smuggler's box and I just undid the stuff here, and there was one bolt there holding the steering column in, and I just undid that, pushed it down, and it fell out. So I need to support underneath the car, so I just want to talk through what I'm doing so it makes a bit of sense. So this is where the steering crossbar bolted into, and there's another bolt there, and there's the same on the other side. Now they are known points on the car, and if I can get something square to bolt into them, then I can support the weight of the car and that thing will be fixed. And when I say the thing, it's this. So this is an RSJ, and you can see it's quite long, and basically that's the RSJ, and I want to attach it onto this. So this is the steering rack, and I'll turn it upside down, but basically this steering rack bolts, remember the two holes I just showed you, there's one and there's one, they bolt into the car in those two holes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt this piece of metal here to this, and then I'm going to weld that to this, which is my RSJ. So I'll grab that and sort of show you. I'm basically going to weld that on top of all of that, so I can bolt this RSJ onto the car. It's a bit long-winded, but let's see how it goes. So luckily for me, this thing has got holes in it, and I keep bits of scrap steel lying around the place for eventualities like this. So I'll try and capture it on camera what I'm trying to do here. Basically, I'm just going to put this bolt through there and then put it there, and I need to get my other one, and there's my other one, and I'm going to put it through this one, I think. So I'll put that there and then push them all the way to the end, and luckily for me they perfectly match up with those two holes. So I'm going to see if I can carefully drop them through those two holes. So one's in, that one's gone for a walk, so I'll push him back up there. That one's in as well, savage. So now I'll just take my two nuts and I'll pop them on underneath there, and I've got nothing to hold that bolt at the moment, so just got to try and do it by friction and stuff. But there, that one's on. Now let's do this one up. That one's on as well. So I'm going to do those two nuts up tight, and then I'll see about welding that to that. Well, this is what I'm going for. You can see that I've put the steering rack on top of my bar, which came out of my scrap pile, and I'm putting it on the RSJ. I want to show you my measuring system because I do think it's particularly special. I forgot my tape measure today, which is not ideal, but I'm going to have to go for it because I want this car to get moving, and whatever, I'm going to go for it. So I've checked, I've got 2 angle grinder blades, and I've made sure that they are the right dimensions. Then I found this, which is about that wide, and you can see there's just a couple millimeters gap there left at the end. And I'll check the gap this side as well. And to be fair, this thing does need to go that way a tiny bit. But anyway, then what I'm going to do, I know this is special, guys, I really do, but I don't have a tape measure with me, and what you're going to do about it. So I'm going to basically look at this bar, and there's a midpoint. It's clearly marked right there. There's a midpoint, this is a factory piece of metal, so I'm pretty confident in that. And I'm gonna mark on this bar where that midpoint ends up, and then I'll check it to the other end. You can see I've made a mark there. Then I'll check it around this way, the same factory mark there, and that shows that I'm off quite a bit. Oh no, sorry, I'm not off. I'm almost perfect. Very, very nearly perfect. So I need to come back this way very, very slightly. Now let's check it again. You Porsche guys, I know, will be wincing, but it is what it is. If you had the tools I had, you'd do the work the way I'm doing it. One day I'll have an all singing or dancing workshop, but right now this is what I've got and this is what I'm using. That's close enough for me, because I've still got a little bit of adjustment here that I can use, and also it doesn't have to be 100%. I mean, it's literally just to hold things while I weld. Right, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to weld this into place. I'm going to continue fixing this patch, and it looks a bit messy at the moment, but it's going to be good. So I need to come in and basically finish welding up all of these seams, and then I'll grind back all the joints. And what I might do as well is I might do a bit from underneath in any places where it doesn't look strong or something. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. Just go around and finish welding in this piece. Things are looking good. I have made this patch, and you can see there's the silver or the metal of the welds that I've ground down. So once that's all covered up, you would never know, and especially considering that all this will be covered in carpet and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Then you can see this, which is, I'll show you this side. That is like a clamp or a hoop. This is the original blue, by the way. This is the colour the car was when it was new. So that clamp should go there. And so I'm going to weld this one back down. I left it there. I left it attached from that side, so I knew exactly where it was. So I just need to drill through from this side, put 2 little holes in there, so that when it's down I can weld it onto this. And I'll also remove the paint from here so the weld is better. I've got this rear corner in now, so that's all good, and I've just put this rear deck lid on to see where it all goes, because what I want to do is put this on, but this obviously has to line up, because really I should fit the window before I do it and all sorts of stuff, but I'm not going that crazy. But what I do need to do is get this deck lid adjusted so it sits well. Actually, it's surprisingly good. I mean, I think this car is really nice and straight underneath. It looks terrible, but I think it's a pretty good straight car. And you can see, just having put that on, these gaps are really nice, on this side at least. If that was sitting a bit higher, that gap would be, okay, a bit tight, but you can adjust that. So that looks good, but I think this gap is too wide up at the top, so I need to adjust the hinges. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to undo those or loosen off those bolts on each side, and then shift the whole bonnet forward. You can see under here, this is the original paint colour as well. So this is the special order blue, which is, I think, what I'll put this car back to. I haven't yet decided. Anyway, let me adjust those hinges right now. Well, that has been a big success. I got this frame bolted onto the front of the car using the existing suspension parts, and then what that does for me is I've got this big RSJ, and it comes all the way back and it sits there under the car, which is just outstanding. So to give you some context, you can't buy a brand new a select jig, which is what most professionals use for these, are about probably 5,000 to 8,000, and then you have to buy brackets, and it's basically a jig like this, obviously much better because it's custom made, and then you have to buy brackets that are about 10 grand. So this frame I bought it from a guy who was a student at a local university. There's the other side, and he made this frame for who knows what, and I bought it off him for 200 quid. So now it's bolted to the bottom of my Porsche, and what I need to do now is I need to fabricate something that goes from there to somewhere up here and just attach to the back of this car, and I'm going to figure it out. I've been staring at the back of this car and I've realised I've actually got this frame that I've been using for ages. I found this at the side of the road, and it matches up really nicely with my plates for that frame. So I'm going to see if I can adapt it, or basically push them together and make this table, this thing, part of that frame, because it sits really well with the profile of the back of this car. And this may well come in handy if I need to have some reference points and bits that I can weld on and who knows what else. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is see if I can modify that table to do what I need to do. I've had a great welding session here. So here there was a big hole. So for a start, all of this I did before. This whole section was a massive hole, and I've patched that in. And then I've welded yesterday all of this. It does look rough, but I've still got some work to do to tidy it up. So this was I decided to put a patch on top of this, so there is metal underneath, but I wanted this patch to reinforce this because the metal's quite thin from having rusted before, and I didn't have the confidence to cut this out because I was worried about this moving. So if this kind of piece of the shell or the frame moved, that would be really hard to fix, so I didn't want to cut this apart. So I've welded this frame over the top, so that's all nice, and I'll use seam sealer and stuff, and there's weld proof primer underneath, so that's all cool. And then here I've welded up a patch here, so that's all in. And this is the next piece, which is this, which is the corner, and you can see underneath there was a big hole, and I've welded in a new patch there. So all of this is a new patch, which is cool. And I've got my boot lid on now, so maybe I'll lift that up and just demonstrate underneath there. It's all sort of being welded up, so that's the game I'm playing, is just piece by piece. I'm going to keep welding new panels onto this car. So this is the next one, and it's going to go in here in a minute. I'm going to start work on it. I've shaped it up already pretty well, so it's going to sit there, get welded in. Then I need to fabricate, this is quite a hard piece under here. I need to fabricate a piece that goes along, down, and then under here it will need to curve round and match this edge. So I made all this as well. All of this stuff was rusted out before, and I've just been welding pieces in. And then down here, I might as well show you since we're all here. This is the new side piece. You can see here, this is all completely rusted out and, you know, really untidy. Someone has welded in a patch there, then a patch on the patch. This is all completely rusted out. Underneath in there is just rust. So what I've got is one of these, which is a reproduction sheet metal piece, and it's just going to replace all of the sheet metal that goes along there. And this is actually the wrong side. This is the side for this. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this out, weld in a new one, but that'll be for a future video. But just to kind of show you where I'm going with it. So I'm really excited about this car, and I'm going to keep working on it, and I'll keep you up to speed as things go along. I think I'll wrap this video here. So I've done quite a bit of work on this, and I'll just continue on. Don't want to make these videos too long. Stick around for more on this Porsche. It's going to be a really cool restoration project, so stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next one.